Supreme Court attack scares LGBTQ plus community during Pride weekend. The Supreme Court struck a mighty blow against freedoms of American citizens last week. Through a reinterpretation of the 14th Amendment, they struck down the nearly 50-year-old Roe v. Wade court case that legalized abortion in the U.S. The 14th Amendment actually states, quote, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws," end quote. The court had set the precedent with Roe v. Wade and other cases that interpreted that text to also include a right to privacy. Now the conservative majority Supreme Court, called a supermajority, has overturned Roe v. Wade, and Justice Clarence Thomas has made it clear that they plan to go after other cases. In his concurring opinion, he wrote that the justices, quote, "should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell," end quote. Griswold versus Connecticut was the case that made contraception legal in the U.S. Lawrence versus Texas overturned sodomy laws, and Obergefell versus Hodges made same-sex marriage legal in the U.S. Overturning these cases will limit women's ability to decide upon their own and will make the act of same-sex relations illegal again in many states. According to a recent CBS poll, more than half of Americans agreed, feeling that the Supreme Court will now act on the promise of Justice Thomas to overturn these laws.
Oh yeah, what a way to mess up our weekend, Mr. Clarence Thomas. Holy crap. You know that Teresa and I are actually sitting down with a lawyer this week to put things on paper because we're so fearful and we really do think that this is going to end up happening. And we're going to lose our marriage rights.
That is, and to every LGBT voice that hears my voice, that is a prudent decision.
Absolutely.
Isn't that awful that we have to do that?
Yeah.
Well, and it's no coincidence, I think, that the overturning occurred just a few days before the 7th anniversary of Obergefell versus Hodges. I mean, it's the timing, that was the 26th, was the 7th anniversary.
In terms of the timeline, I just want to point out that in January and February of 2020, leading into the election, the primaries, etc. I hope I got that date right, in 20. I was having arguments with log cabin Republicans and others that would guest on our shows of them absolutely saying there's absolutely no desire, marriage is not on the table, it's not on the table, it's not on the table. The log cabin Republicans learned on Friday that marriage is not only on the table, but after the GOP's decision that the log cabin Republicans can't participate in the GOP in Texas in the convention, but also Texas will bring up whether sex between two log cabin Republicans is even going to be legal. Let me flash back to January and February of 2020. See, I told you.
I don't know. I mean, after the death penalty was ruled unconstitutionally administered, states had to go back and repass death penalty statutes. So I don't know if the laws that were invalidated in 2015 would automatically come back on the books, or if they would have to be repassed, in which case they may not make it past as many states as they had before regarding marriage. But you no longer need a state constitutional amendment. So as we know, like here in Florida, all you need is 50% of the state legislature, and that's not changing anytime soon. So it's a very short path to repeal if the court says, yes, you can go ahead and repeal this.
Let me take a quick swing through of a lot of the blame game that took place over the weekend. There's a lot of it. A lot of the big portion of the blame game is in LGBTQ generally, but Democrats, more specific in criticism, say, well, if you weren't so absolutist on Hillary Clinton and saying she's not enough, she's not enough, she's not enough, we wouldn't be in this situation. What do y'all think about that? That Hillary Clinton, if she would have won the election in 2016 and we would have held a lesser standard to her delivery, we wouldn't be sitting here today. What do y'all think about that?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. She was right. I mean, everything she predicted, she was right about this.
Yeah.
She said that some of this stuff was going to happen.
She did.
She was right.
And no one listened to her.
Right.
And what do you think about another of the blame games that take place over the weekend? If Ruth Bader Ginsburg would not have held on, and she would have retired, and that seat would have become available, we wouldn't be in this situation.
That hurts, Al, but I have to say yes as well. It does hurt. You know, we had the time at that time to put somebody in that spot that would have been fighting for our needs, and unfortunately, we don't have that now.
But I also think that until Democrats become as radical as Republicans
And as organized.
Yep, we're going to continue to see these things happening.
Well, and if that's true, what causes action, LGBT specifically, that's our principal audience that we're talking to, what causes us to decide, okay, we have to take the gloves off? This is a bare knuckle fist fight.
I mean, we should have done this years ago. I mean, you know, I love her, but Michelle Obama said when they go low, we go high, and that time has passed. If someone tries to cut you off at the knees, sever their Achilles. Play as dirty as you can.
At this point.
Yeah.
You know, I was marching on Friday with Bands Our Bodies. We had a couple hundred women marching through Wynwood, and it was women, trans men, and non-binary folks that were out there marching for, you know, after the overturning. And people are mad, Al. People don't know what to do. People are frustrated.
Yep.
And it's like we've been screaming for years to get up, suit up, and show up. And now everybody's outside like, where do you need me to, where do you need me, coach? I need you in history like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's where I need you.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about Hillary a moment ago, and you said, you know, nobody listened. But that's not true. More than 5 million people voted for her than for Donald Trump. You know, the Republicans have figured out how to work in the minority. And that's where they're seizing all their power. Donald Trump lost by 7 million votes this last time around, and we still haven't been able to get anything substantive passed out of the Senate.
I think for me, of what happens on Friday, that's the big picture issue. Because first off, it's interesting to me that in the same week that the Supreme Court does this, that Thomas says this in his agreement in the majority decision, which was highly offensive. First off, let's talk about Thomas a moment. He had the same rights affirmed him in 1967 in the exact same mechanism as Roe and Obergefell and the sodomy law in Texas. He was affirmed in the exact same way by the Supreme Court that said, we're not going to allow states to decide whether there can be sodomy laws or not. We're not doing that. It is a constitutional issue, and therefore we're ruling on a constitutional issue, and that ended sodomy laws in the United States. He benefited the exact same way in the exact same process of stare decisis to say, black guy, you can marry a white woman. That did not come until 1967 in the exact same process of the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas is a hypocrite and a liar and dangerous for America.
Yes.
Period, the end.
Absolutely.
Right.
Period, the end. Can you tell I'm kind of angry over the issue? The second thing is, who would have thought in the same week that we're learning that Donald Trump committed a coup attempt on the United States of America, that we would learn why this crazy, fanatical, radical right, evangelical right, including Clarence Thomas's white wife, would stand behind him even in coup. Now we have the answer. It was him coming down the escalator in 2015. If we get this guy, we're going to get everything else. That is factually proven now. Now, the only remaining question is, are we going to be kicked in the balls or the vagina, or are we going to fight?
I feel the kick in my vagina right now.
That's the
Sorry, that was just me stretching.
only.
Well, there were.
That's the only thing that's left, because we have. I feel helpless. That's the worst part of this moment. I feel helpless because I have sat in forums and in churches and in political events and television broadcasts over and over and over again saying, this is coming. Are we going to register? Are we going to get out? Are we going to vote? And the answer has been repeatedly, no.
Well, LGBTQ people were there in force also in Fort Lauderdale. There was a rally at Esplanade Park, about 350, 400 people, and a large LGBTQ contingent. So we're out there, we're mad, and we have a history of marching and protesting. And
I'm so happy to hear that, but can I counterbalance it by saying there were 10 times that number in the bars on Wilton Drive at the exact same moment?
oh, that's disappointing.
It's true.
It is true. And the Christian right turns out every time there's an election or an important decision, they bring people in masses that exceed what we do.
And our peeps are in Wilton Drive.
I'm married legally. I'm an older, privileged white guy. I'm okay. I'm okay. I won't have to face abortion issues. I will not have to face Latino issues. I will not have to face religious issues. I'm Southern Baptist, reluctantly, but I'm Southern Baptist. I won't have to face these issues. Sodomy is likely not going to be something that we face in Florida. But at the end of the day, we've got lots of our brothers and sisters that are going to face these horrible issues with a black Supreme Court justice that has forgotten everything about constitutional rights.
And now's the time to look beyond ourselves and what impacts just us and start thinking about what we need to do to fight for everyone else who doesn't have a voice at the table.
That's it. Do we stand up for those that don't have a voice or a seat?
We must.